Go look and find what you believe and look further into this to draw some conclusions. Because as most people say, and as the saying already goes, we know that if you stand for nothing, you will fall for everything. Which makes absolute sense. So the question is, are we here by design or are we here by chance? Where does the evidence point, right? A watch, they like to say that a watch and the universe are very similar. Very complex organism. They require many interdependent parts within them. And if you see a watch, you can assume that there's a watchmaker. It only makes sense. Likewise, if you see the universe, you see that there's a designer. If there's a design, then there's commonly a designer behind it. Now, let's say, to say that the universe can form by chance out of nothing is very similar to saying that a tornado can go through a junkyard and spit out an F-15 fighter jet. That is the actual probability. It doesn't actually quite make sense. It's not possible. So every last element of creation now has so much complexity to it that it can really only point to a creator. Think about that. From the distance of the sun to the earth. Now, you know, if we were any closer, that we'd die because it'd be so hot and we'd all burn to death. If we were any farther away, then we would freeze because there wouldn't be enough heat. The level of oxygen in our atmosphere, intermingling with all the other elements, allow us to breathe properly and live. And the systems of trees and humans and carbon monoxide and dioxide and all this kind of stuff is all there with a purpose and a plan. But what about the multiplication of processes? Think about it. When God created a tree, he only created one. And yet now we have billions and 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 billions of them. Why? Because inside the seed is the ability for infinity. A great example of design. Not only that, but the laws of the universe. Gravity, centrifugal force. How do we explain those things, right? Let's go even to talk about the human cell. The human cell is so complex. DNA is so much information. And how every single organ works in our body, the scientists have no idea to even figure out how it does. Why? Because they never will. We'll never figure out how it all exactly works, because that's God. DNA by itself has the most advanced form of information ever known to man. That we can't even figure out what's laced on this stuff, except to say that the information must have come from a source outside our time-space domain, hence an intelligent designer. So I want to look at just a couple of things, not proofs, but maybe evidences of intelligent design. Let's start with the stars in the sky. Remember, we talked about the stars in the sky last week. Job. Now, Job is a very interesting book. People say that Job was written even before Genesis was written, and it was a time that was apart from everything else that was happening in the Bible. So that's why you find some really weird things in Job. Now, here's one of them. Job 38, 31 to 33 says, "Can you bind the cluster of Pleiades, or loose the belt of Orion? Can you bring the Mazzaroth in its season, or can you guide the great bear with its cubs? Do you know the ordinance of heaven, and can you set their dominion over the earth?" Now, when you read that, it doesn't really make sense until you dig a little deeper into it. But when you dig deeper into it, we see that God is revealing several star constellations to Job. Now, Pleiades, we looked at last week. We saw that constellation, which is quite beautiful. Everybody knows Orion, right? Orion's belt in the movies, a very famous constellation, both of which are mentioned in the Bible. And then he reveals to us this word called Mazzaroth. It's a Hebrew word that carries the sense of some messages in the constellations. Now, today in our vernacular, it's turned into a New Age thing and commonly known now as the zodiac or our horoscope. But even before all that was created, it was actually in the Bible and it served a purpose. Now, let me take you back to creation. Genesis 1:14. It says this, "And God said, let the lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night," and look at their purpose. "Let them be" what? Signs. "Let them be signs and seasons, and for days and for years." So might we think, and this is my assumption, that the meanings, that the things in there, that God, the intelligent designer, may have told us a story even before he wrote a word on a piece of paper. That there might be a story in the signs of the stars, the Mazzaroth, that God put there. Now, each constellation has several stars. Each star has a name, and each name has a meaning. Now, for the sake of time, we cannot go into all of this today because there's 48 stars with 48 different meanings. But if we just dissect it just a little bit, we look at the Mazzaroth. 12 signs. This is Orion. He counts the number of the stars, and he calls them by name. We know that God gives them all names, and he knows that the names have meaning. So this is the Mazzaroth here, 12 signs that create a circle. And although modern zodiac starts with Aries, which is actually false, because when you look back at all the ancient cultures, they start with Virgo. And that's where we're going to start, and we're going to go around the circle really fast. Now, again, this is really quick, but I want you to just catch the names of the meanings and the names of what they mean, the signs and the stars. Now, we're going to start with Virgo. Virgo, actually, the name means the promised seed of the Virgin. Now, just look at some of the names. The seed, the brightest stars, and there are glorious, beautiful, who shall have dominion, the sun who cometh. Now the Deacan, which is another constellation within the constellation, called, their names mean the desired, the despised, the coming one. He cometh, treading underfoot, the pierced. Virgo. Moving on, after Virgo is Libra, the balances. Remember the scales when you see in the Mazzaroth there? The price deficient balanced by the price which covered. Let's just look at the names real quick. Purchase, redemption, the station of propitiation, the price deficient, the price which covers, the price of the conflict. Here we go into the decans. Look what they mean. The cross, the willing victim slain, to be slain. A lamb, the crown bestowed. Okay, let's move on. Scorpius. Scorpius is the scorpion, obviously, the picture of that. The serpent or the enemy. Wounding him that cometh means war or conflict. The wounding. It means accursed or sin offering. Trying to seize the crown. The right heel wounded, he who cometh, and the strong one. 3 of the constellations, starting to tell the story. Is it starting to make sense to you? Let's continue on. The Sagittarius, the archer, the guy who holds it, the conquering, he shall be exalted. The altar, the dragon who is trotted on, and it goes on and on and on, and you can go through them and look at it upon yourself because we don't have much time. But let's end the last one right before Virgo. Anyone know what it is if you're born in early August, late July? Leo, right? The lion, trading underfoot, the judge cometh, the judge shall reign, the fleeing serpent. And right there in the stars of the sky, even before any word was ever written, as God had said that I will speak signs, if you will just look at them, he tells us the gospel message there. Written before any other thing. Let's look at a couple animals and bring this whole thing to a close. Birds. Anyone like birds? Not me. Birds. Someone likes birds, not me. Birds freak me out, because they like fly over you and crap on you and stuff like that. But let's look at the birds. We know that birds have the ability to migrate thousands of miles to exact spot. This is the Arctic tern, and it migrates 22,000 miles every year exactly to the same winter spot. So in one study, what scientists did, they took a seabird called the Manx shearwater from one of its nests in Wales, and they put it in Boston, 3,000 miles away, and they wanted to see what happened to it. They put it in Boston, and just so happened, even though that this Manx shearwater had never swam across the Atlantic Ocean in their life before, 12 and a half days later, they found their nest back in Wales, 3,000 miles from Boston. It's amazing. Now, how did it do that? Research has shown that many birds have small magnetic substances in their brain that act as compasses. And they help navigate to where they need to go, and that's why they can get to the same place every time. Now, if that weren't enough, that science is also proving that they have many more means to navigate, some of which include the sun, the stars, changes in barometric pressure, low-frequency sounds made by the wind and the sea, and even odors. And based on this, these birds have the ability to navigate where they need to go. It would be amazing if a bird could do it just with one of them, but the fact that they could do it with all of them cannot be coincidence. Maybe the evidence of intelligent design. How about the giraffe? You like giraffe? I think he's a cool animal. Has anyone ever stood up real fast and gotten dizzy? Right? You know why that happened? Because not enough pressure to your brain. Because you're sitting, all of a sudden you stand, the heart can't pump blood to your brain, and all of a sudden you kind of feel dizzy. Now think about the giraffes. They got this huge neck, and their brain is so high, and they're going to pump it so high, you'd think that these guys would topple down all the time because they're moving back and forth, but they don't. Why? Because inside of a giraffe, and in no other animal, there's a substance. It's not a substance. I don't even know what it is, but they call it the wonder net. And what the wonder net has the ability to do, I can't believe you think a giraffe is cute. I mean, it's a giraffe, for goodness sake. But inside the brain of a giraffe is a wonder net, and what it has the ability to do is maintain the blood pressure at a constant no matter how fast that neck moves. So if it's going up really fast, it'll rush blood to the head to make sure it's okay. And if he moves down to feed on the water real quick, it'll keep the blood in its neck to make sure that it doesn't come down. It's called a wonder net. No other animal in the world has it except this one. Maybe evidence of design. I don't know. Plants? Let's look at plants. Plants are proven now. Everyone thinks that plants, when they change colors in the seasons, they do it because of the temperature. They feel, well, it's getting cold, so we change and it's getting hot. But what science is actually proving is the bark of the tree has the ability to calculate how much daylight is in the air. So as the